about that.
Like, do it.
Never time. OT, baby. I haven't done this in a while.
Too long.
Yesterday, and then we had like breaking news
Too long.
for a couple days there, and I am so glad.
And when we do it without you, it doesn't get us into the right
thing.
enthusiasm into OT.
So sweet.
Yes.
I'm excited.
It doesn't.
I can't remember the last time. First of all, it's been a minute since you were here, and I don't think you guys have been on together.
We haven't.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, this was paprika. It was a special. It was,
You know what?
Spice,
I knew it would be.
Yeah, it was a special. So
I
you
only
know
know
what
Marie from TV. That's
You know
it.
what I did? That
I thought it was very
today?
respectfully done, by the way.
Well,
I collected questions on
Disagreements.
Twitter.
Okay.
Because people say, oh, we love the live chat, but I'm traveling today. Can you do Twitter? All right, so
Twitter love.
George Pizanowski says, one of two, I'm only going to read the first one. All this talk about health care, why can't we just have some health care the same as Congress? Anybody?
Well, I wanted
That's
to
a great
continue our feisty conversation.
Well,
Yeah,
Can we-
thanks
can
to
we-
that man.
What health care does Congress get again?
It's like a golden Cadillac model,
Yeah,
I believe.
I love the
pretty
bill.
nice.
Marie was very silent, which tells me it's pretty good, right?
It's really nice.
Yes.
Which is why Congress would never vote for a bill that I really like, which would put every member of Congress on the same health care that vets get. We'll see how
Yes.
long,
Yes,
how long
I
that
agree
takes.
with that.
Yes.
So
That's what we should do.
Yeah, thank you for your question, George. One more real quick one, and then we'll go back to spicy. This might get us there,
Spicy.
though. This is Pamela Sharon. She says, why do I never get a response? Now you are. Another penalty? Remove the 30% penalty paid to insurance companies. Put a waiting period instead.
They're talking about this sort of backdoor mandate is what
Yeah.
she's talking about.
And instead of paying the government via the IRS,
I don't know why they're doing that.
you're gonna pay this penalty, this 30%, to get onto insurance if yours lapses or you for whatever reason.
Part of me
don't
thinks
have it.
that'll be gone by the time the Freedom
So
Caucus.
Kurt Harlocker wrote this, Pete. Pete is the voice of common sense. Totally on board with him about the health care plan. Make it as conservative as possible now. Get it right the first time.
Yeah, but the problem. So I agree with that as an opening position, but we all know that when the sausage gets made, it's going to be a bill that almost nobody likes.
Listen, I was surprised with Paul when it first came out. I was surprised that it was sort of not, expansion of Medicaid, keeping the Cadillac tax, things like that. I was very surprised it was kept in. I just want the Freedom Caucus and the moderates and everyone in between to work collectively together and to talk to Paul Ryan, to speak with I keep calling him Donald Trump. People get mad. President Trump. It's I've been watching him on TV my entire life. It's an old habit to break. But I just want us all to collectively to come together and work together because it gives too much ammo to the left when we don't.
Pete, can I ask you a question on this? If I know no Republicans
Can we talk about foreign policy
and then
again?
we'll go to foreign policy. Then we'll go to foreign policy. I know Republicans don't believe, or some Republicans don't believe the numbers. But if some of these numbers are right, and a bunch of people lose their insurance, or if the cost goes up significantly, particularly for the elderly, are you okay with that?
It's not that I don't think that's what will happen. And that's why.
But if it does, play just.
No, I mean, listen. What I think the left
here.
wants to do is get to single-payer health care. That we know that's where they want to go. A lot of people feel betrayed by Obamacare in the first place. They wanted to go further. And if that's your goal, then you think everybody's covered and everybody gets great care. Having seen the VA and what that actually means when you get single-payer, it's not good. So just because you have additional million number of people on a care or a bad plan doesn't mean they're getting good care.
Right.
I think you have to re-incentivize the market. So I don't want anyone to lose their health care, but I want to let people choose to not have it if they want to.
If costs go up, is that an acceptable outcome?
They can't go up any faster than they went on under Obamacare.
That's not true.
I don't want
How
them to
about
go
if
up,
costs go up at first, but longer term they come down?
which is what they say is going to happen.
Saying would happen.
Because of the really steep cuts to Medicaid, which a lot of people rely on.
Okay.
All right, let's talk foreign policy. Let's go back to the mattresses, people. All right, so during the TV version of us, and I'm just reading the live chat because people are like, talk to me about ISIS. You guys were kind of going at it a little bit. One thing we didn't bring up, so I can't wait for this discussion, North Korea, haven't talked about that at all.
Oh, boy.
Marie, really, the past administration sort of looked at that with a side eye. And it has festered. Under Barack Obama's watch, it festered. So this is where we are now. And when I hear criticism that President Trump is putting too much emphasis on China and North Korea, I scratch my head. These guys are crazy. I mean, they are. No.
They are crazy.
They're
Oh,
They're
God.
willing to kill their neighbors with a nuclear weapon.
So what I would say is,
he's fed his brother to be eaten alive by wild dogs.
Yes.
I mean,
so
this isn't
what
a
I would say is
rational
every president comes in for the last several facing the North Korea challenge, and every president very quickly realizes that there aren't a lot of good options. And what we in the Obama administration did was put, along with the UN, the toughest international sanctions on North Korea that have ever been in place. That clearly hasn't changed their behavior. So then you get to a point, and you heard Rex Tillerson doing a little bit of this during his recent trip to Asia, that all options are on the table. Military options, and Pete would know this better than anyone, there's not good military options either. So you're facing a situation where we deployed extra resources to South Korea and Japan. We're working with the Chinese to try and get them to pressure the North Koreans more. But there's not like a perfect option that we just weren't willing to take and that the Trump administration can't.
No, there
now.
isn't a perfect option. But what the bad thing that was done that I think the Obama administration did time and time again, which is so foolish, which is to take the military option off the table to begin with, which means you're never negotiating from a true position of strength. And you also, the administration was obsessed with things like global zero on nuclear weapons, which is this ridiculous
sounds like a
argument.
spa treatment.
No, it doesn't.
When did we take military
talks
options
about-
off the table with North Korea? I
You
don't
took it
remember
off the
doing
table
that.
with Iran, which led to a
actually,
very
the
bad,
president said
silly deal.
specifically he was not taking military
There's not a
options off the
soul on the
table.
planet that ever believed he would use it. Not a soul.
the
Your threat has to be
Iranians did.
credible for it to be effective. I don't buy
I
that for
sat
a
in
second.
those meetings negotiating that nuclear deal. The Iranians believed her. They wouldn't have been there.
I don't buy that for a hot second,
All
even
right,
if I
can
was in
we-
the meeting or not. The perception is reality that he was never going to act militarily, and therefore they could get a better deal.
I want to take it back.
otherwise
Cynthia Ann 555 says, no, we got to take it back to ISIS. She thinks you,
We're making
she thinks
take it back.
she made a great point. If you have sworn allegiance to ISIS, your citizenship is not with the country you reside in or were born in, such as the case of London terrorists. Hashtag revoked.
But Harris, you made a
course.
good point. In a democratic society, you can't just strip someone's citizenship without due process. I mean, it is very hard to take someone's citizenship away. And so you can't just
So
start...
maybe we should rethink that.
Wait,
why
can I
do we
ask
have
you
to
a
be
quick
wedded
question?
to the existing model?
I assume
If
from
That's a pretty bold statement.
Fine. We should
you
live
seen
in
the
bold
socks?
times.
No, I know. I just...
We face a generational and existential type threat that is based on an ideology that's well grounded, that is on the offensive and extremely violent. We haven't dealt like Nazism was a conjured up, thing that was built by Hitler. Islamism is based on a theology that is far more coherent, well funded, and
Well, I
spreading.
don't think that either would be more or less dangerous.
But I mean,
Right.
the loud and silent invasion of Islamism is the cause of our time, and whether or not we actually fight it.
Where do you really
Wait, can I ask
Yeah,
you a
go
question?
ahead, sorry.
So I assume from the way you were talking on the show that on some level you like the Freedom Caucus and ideologically you're a little bit aligned with them. Is that fair
On
enough?
some things, but not on a lot of the national
Okay, because I was going to say, when it comes to civil liberties and national security, I mean, to say that they're the polar opposite of me is putting it very lightly.
Yeah.
And they would say you're infringing on their civil liberties. I'm like you. I'm like, you want to kill me? You want to stop my way of life? Screw you. Take your citizenship away. You can go to Gitmo. You can go to someplace else. I don't really care. And do you want to know why my way of life is better than yours? Because I can go outside in a tank top without getting stoned. That's why America is better than that way of life, hands down. No, and I don't.
I agree.
I have zero patience for it. I am unmovable on this. As I tell you, it's my Achilles heel. Fastest way to get me riled up. I went to a dinner party one time where I had to leave on this very issue. Not even kidding. But for me, like with people like the Freedom Caucus, with things like that, that is part of the reason why I have such problems with them right now, is because I find in instances, especially like national security, that you're looking at the macro or the micro, and not looking at
right.
macros have the micro.
Right.
And I just don't understand going forward. That is why, just going back to the politics of them at the same time, why I find them so dismissive of the rest of the party in so many ways. I think people like us, especially when it comes to national security, are living in reality a lot more
for
than
good
they
when
are.
you can.
Well, but
Yes,
also,
yes.
citizenship isn't a shield. So, for example, and going back to the Obama administration, ordering a strike on a U.S. citizen, Anwar al-Awlaki, killing a U.S. citizen in a drone strike, his citizenship couldn't shield him from that kinetic action that we decided to take. And you can criticize other things, but getting him off the battlefield was actually a good thing for American security. So I'm not saying that there's no limits to this, but when you start talking about that's just, you're going down
Obviously,
a
there's going to be a process.
Going down a
I'm
slippery
not
slope.
saying you get to say your citizenship
Before we
is gone.
go, we've got a minute left. There's a lot of questions, Marie. A lot of people want to know more about like where you came from before you worked at the State Department,
Okay.
like what your past was.
So those are deep
People
questions.
love to listen, love to learn something.
So
about
I started in
people on their
Washington
team.
as a career CIA officer, nonpartisan in the Bush administration. I was an analyst. I focused on Saudi Arabia and the Middle East. That's what I'd studied. And I did that for 6 years. I was our spokesperson towards the end of that for Bush and Obama administrations. Then I went to the campaign.
A lot of people may not know that.
I was a spokesperson for Mike Hayden, and he's one of my favorite bosses. So on national security, I am actually not. One of the things I was getting at on the show.
Well, they were just asking kindly. It wasn't a challenge
I know.
at all.
on the show, I got a lot of criticism from liberals in my party, working for the CIA, working when we were taking a lot of action against terrorists.
For working for the CIA?
Yes.
That's the left.
They can.
Come on.
They can. I mean, I can't say that on this. That is.
I want to know what she was going to say.
I became like a spokesperson later in life.
Cool.
I'm more of a national security nerd.
Very cool. It's great to have you on. Pete?
Great to be here always.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you
We'll
guys.
see you
Pete.
back here tomorrow for more Outnumbered.
Thank you.
OT, baby.
Bye.